just a couple of zeros here. I think that's what the problem is. If you did not join us at noontime when we came on, and Matt Panto took you on a behind-the-scenes tour, we welcome you to GoLeopards.com. We're at the Berger Varsity Football House in Easton, Pennsylvania, and this is Signing Day Central, presented by Coke Zero, as we take a look at the Lafayette College recruits for 2013. And I always feel very comfortable talking football when I'm sitting next to Mike Joseph, the guy that's been next to me for the last few years as we have brought the ball games for you. And Mike, it's a different kind of day today than National Signing Day has been in the past because of scholarships. What do you think that means to the college?
Well, you're bringing in a different type of athlete, and I think for all the schools in the Patriot League, it's an exciting day because that scholarship possibility is out there. But looking at the list of the kids that Lafayette has signed and watching them on film, you're looking at a situation where these kids probably wouldn't have been on campus last year. These are kids that might have gone somewhere else, a higher level of football. Now they're coming to Lafayette.
Well, that point is easily proved when you take a look at the fact that these kids are from 9 states, and we're talking Tennessee, we're talking Colorado, we're talking Virginia, we're talking North Carolina. I don't think in your recruiting days, the miles you put on were not quite that fast.
Not even close. I mean, we would really just kind of draw about a 300-mile radius around Lafayette College, which would take us into New England and maybe down into Baltimore and out to Pittsburgh, which I did. And at that point in time, you would just bring those kids in because a lot of it was, you know, it's too much money maybe to go all the way out. And then again, you're not going to get a kid to travel from Florida or Colorado or Tennessee to come here because there's so many other options. But the scholarships now makes a huge difference. The FCS bid to the playoffs makes a huge difference. So these kids now see the opportunities not only to play at a higher level, but the education here at Lafayette is second to none, and you can combine both.
I've sat with Frank Tavani a little bit this morning. I'll sit with him again a little bit later on today at 5:30 when we do game day recap, and of course it'll be signing day recap at 5:30. But talk a little bit about, as you being a former assistant coach, the excitement, the nerves that are generated this particular morning or maybe a couple of days ago when you were waiting for those signatures to come in because you weren't always quite sure you were going to get all the kids you were going to get.
Well, that was the most frustrating time, and really the time where your nerves, you got the okay, the verbal commitment, and that was one thing, and that's obviously the first process. But after that point, it was always, you know, we have to get the paperwork in. You need to get the paperwork in. And I know these coaches, they're really struggling. And once that fax comes through or that email replication comes through, it's a sigh of relief, really what it is. And I know Lafayette got all of their commitments in very early this morning. Signing day really started all over the country at 7 a.m. Eastern. And when it hit 7 a.m. on the Western Coast, they started to sign as well. These kids are anxious to get it out of the way. But for a coach, it's just it's a whole day of stress and then a whole day of relief. And you know what? Starts over tomorrow for recruiting for the next year.
And you make a good point, as we heard a few cheers here at Berger today when the Colorado kids, with their different time zone,
yes,
they got their signatures signed and they got their faxes in. So we're going to take a look at the offense this hour. Mike and I will be back at 2 o'clock and we'll take a look at the defense. And we talk about offense, 10 new kids are coming on campus. We're going to do them alphabetically. So we're going to start with Aiden Greenfield, a young man who is from Miller Place, New York, went to Miller Place High School, and he is a tailback. You're going to get some video on him right here. And Mike, he ran for over 1,000 yards, 134 carries, so obviously resilient, 8.8 yards per carry. Returned 7 kicks for a 35-yard average. So Aiden Greenfield looks like a good all-around athlete.
Yeah, and just what you notice about Aiden right here is just the pure speed, the way he runs away from people. And as a former coach, what you're looking for is separation, and Aiden has that. You know, what really stood out when I watched him is just speed, speed, speed. You see him pop through, and then the acceleration to run by everybody, nobody gaining on him at the same time. This is a kid as a sophomore and a junior that played slot receiver, was switched to the backfield as a senior and a running back, obviously now. So you're not sure where Lafayette's going to play him. I would imagine he's going to be obviously as a running back, and then maybe find himself catching the ball out of the backfield since he is a former slot receiver. So those are the things that stood out for me: the explosiveness, the speed, You know, obviously he's coming out of a terrific high school, and he was a player of the year up there in New York.
And every player is very attractive when they come in, and they can play a lot of different positions. That versatility is so critical when you come on campus at Lafayette. He is listed as a tailback. He's 5'9", 175 pounds. Now we move to Newburgh, New York, Newburgh Free Academy, a big offensive lineman in Tucson Helm. This young man, from the coaches, they believe his potential is unlimited. He comes in as a Section 9 exceptional senior player. He was a center on the basketball team. As you get a look, follow the arrow, and you'll get a look at Tucson. Member of the National Honor Society, but you could say that about almost every kid that's coming on campus. The National Science Honor Society, really, 6'6", 265. He may be ready to play early.
Yeah, and at 6'6", 275, I mean, that weight is really something that you look at, and the ability to move his feet. Look, watch him get downfield, and a couple things that stood out to me. Obviously, the potential. He's so big. He's got a terrific motor, always down the field, completing blocks. You see him here, pancake. Watch him pull here, you know, right from this situation, gets his feet downfield. He disappears out of the picture. That's something that tells me he's got a good motor. He's going to continue to block. He looks a little raw to me, a kid that's 6'6", 275 pounds. You wonder why isn't he in a bigger school? Well, maybe they saw him a little bit light in high school. I think he played around 240, 235. But just that weight he's put on in the last couple of months has moved him into a situation where he earns a scholarship at Lafayette.
Yeah, they talk about his potential being unlimited here on campus. We look forward to Tucson playing football for Lafayette. Next up is Devin Leach. He is an offensive lineman, a guy projected to be either an offensive guard or an offensive center. Very good player, 6'3", 280 pounds, out of Orchard Park, New York. His father actually played football at the University of Ottawa and won a national championship there and was named to the All-Canadian team. So obviously the genetics are certainly there to raise a good football player. He was All-Western New York first team, All-State honors as a senior, named offensive lineman MVP in the state finals. And he also has a post-grad year. And Mike, I know everybody likes that extra year of maturity before they come on campus.
Absolutely. He basically comes in as kind of like a redshirt freshman for you, a kid that's already got a good year under his belt. And I know Choate Rosemary's an excellent school up there in New York, and he has that extra year, that post-grad year. I think he went there looking for maybe something big, and he's found it here at Lafayette. What I noticed, again, just big, strong, a stout kid, a kid that's thick, can do things up front. We talk every year, you and I, about moving the football and getting people out of the way. Lafayette has struggled to run the football early. I think this is a kid that can help them.
And if you live in Orchard Park, New York, you live right near Ralph Wilson Stadium, and you also probably grow up being a Buffalo Bills fan, so he's been around football almost his entire life. Kyle Mayfield is a tailback out of North Penn, which has a great program here in Pennsylvania, 6'1", 210 pounds coming in. He had 170 carries, as you get a look at Kyle, for 1,045 yards, 13 rushing touchdowns just this season. Last year as a junior, he ran for 1,416 yards, 10 rushing touchdowns. He's also a pretty good punter, so another young man that brings a lot of athleticism.
Well, just coming out of North Penn, you can tell he's obviously playing good competition, and that's the thing that you look for is what kind of competition is he going against. And you can look at Kyle here, good size, a good inside runner, a kid that Lafayette I think has been needing. Someone to run between the tackles a little bit more. You can see the explosiveness as he runs by people right here. He's also a Mini-Max Award, like Maxwell Club Award, a Mini-Max Club Award winner down in that area. So, and he's gotten good coaching. If you think about North Penn, you think about all the good coaches, the Pettin brothers that come through there. But look at the explosion. He's a two-stepper, a kid that can cover 5 grounds with 2 steps. To me, that tells me he's fast. When I look at that film, I see 2 steps within 5 yards. I know he's got good speed.
And you don't play football at North Penn if you're not a physical football player. It is a well and nationally renowned program, North Penn football. And I actually have had the opportunity to see this young man play and called a couple of his ball games during the playoffs. He's an exceptional football player. Matt McCann comes in. He's an offensive lineman. You can never have enough of those guys. 6'4", 275 pounds out of Scarsdale, New York. He was a guard. He was an offensive guard and a tight end. So he, too, as you get a look at him circled there on the video, he throws the shot put, he throws the distance. He's a big, strong kid. And he's in the a cappella singing group. I mean, how can you not like Matt McCann?
Yeah, Matty McCann. Look at Matt McCann, 6'4", 275 out of Scarsdale. I love his feet. And what about big linemen? You want to make sure they can move within space. But watch Matt as he gets across. And right there, Pancake. I mean, he's a road grader. That's what we used to call a kid like this. A kid that's going to make space with his own body. He's going to create that space behind him. Again, just a kid that can move. But watch his feet here, how he explodes the hip level. He drives in, the head and face mask come up. And that tells me he's obviously been coached well. You see here again, just moving the pile out of the screen. A road grader, Matt McCann, a great get.
I like a kid that blocks and gets that back into the end zone and then can sing about it. Nothing wrong with a kid like that. Hunter Price, a wide receiver out of Colorado. He got his facts in this morning. Good to see Hunter's coming to Lafayette College. 6'3", 185 pounds is Hunter. He's an academic all-state freshman. Through his senior year, he had a 3.6 GPA, four-sport athlete, basketball, lacrosse, and track and field. Another exceptional athlete coming to Lafayette.
Well, one of the first things I wrote down when I watched Hunter, and again, this is two kids now from Colorado. First thing I said is Mark Ross with a little better speed.
Oh,
and if you say that, that's saying something. So big wide receiver. I always try to look at kids and try to compare them to maybe somebody in the Patriot League or maybe somebody already on the roster. He just reminds me of a kid that's going to compete for the football. He's a big wide receiver. Think about it. He's 6'4". 6'4" wide receiver with good speed. He's a long strider. Okay, good hands, good target. He's a four-sport athlete, which tells me he does everything well. He's also a terrific student. You just can't miss with a kid like this.
Highly unusual for Lafayette College to get a kid from Colorado, and we'll get a little bit of that story when I have an opportunity to talk to the coordinators who certainly went out on the road to get these young men. And going to Colorado, they ended up going looking for one maybe. They ended up getting two. Drew Reed comes in as a Lakeland, Tennessee scholarship quarterback, and that's good news. 6'1", 185 pounds. Like he threw for 6,000 yards, 70 touchdowns. You got to look at it here, and only 11 interceptions in his 3 years as quarterback. He was the district offensive player of the year and put up some great numbers. One game he was 20 for 20 for 286 yards and 6 touchdowns,
which is a record in that state. And if you go back, I talked to Mickey Fine a little bit about him, who will be coaching him. He broke his collarbone about 5 games into his senior season. Kind of dropped off the radar for some people, so he may be a diamond in the rough. 70 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, just a live arm, a strong arm. If you look at some of these clips, you can see the way he escapes and extends plays. He reminds me a little bit, to go back and kind of put him in with another guy, he reminds me of the kid that just left here, Andrew Shoup. Maybe a little bit better speed than Andrew, but has that escapability, got a nice strong live arm, another good get.
And we got another quarterback. So back-to-back quarterback names. Blake Searfoss, 6'2", 195 pounds. Probably as local a kid as we got here, even though he's from New Jersey. Huntington Central, a good quarterback. You'll get a look at him here. Never a bad thing to have competitive guys come on campus and go at each other.
Yeah, and he gets a strong recommendation from Brad Borman, the right guard for Lafayette. But this is a kid, again, a PG kid that went to the Hun school. He played, obviously, that extra year, so he's a post-grad kid. Had a lot of offers around the area, but again, just a live arm, a good player. And you know what? He's an All-American lacrosse player as well. And a lot of teams thought maybe he was going to play lacrosse. But you can see just the strength in his arm here. He's got a nice wide base when he stands. Watch when he sets up. I love the way when he gets back to pass, he sets and he steps into every throw, and that right arm comes around. He doesn't throw off his back foot very often. He's very committed to each throw he makes. That tells me that he was coached very well. And I know at Huntington Central and at the Hun school he got good coaching. But you can see the way he throws off that front foot. He fires the football. He knows he's decisive where he wants to go. He's actually looks people off. And that's something that you don't see out of a high school quarterback. You see that maybe at the next level. Well, he may already be there.
And Mike mentioned he's an outstanding lacrosse player, but he made the commitment to play football. That's the sport he really wanted to play, and he's coming here to Lafayette, and he will attempt to do just that. Maybe the most exciting guy on campus might be an offensive lineman. I mean, he is a terrific basketball player. Imagine 6'5", 285 as a basketball player out of Highland Mills, New York. Offensive lineman Connor Stottle. Big, strong, and the other adjective they used, nasty.
Nasty. Nasty's always good. And when you arrive at the point of attack and you're nasty and you come there with some bad intentions, that's the kind of kid Connor Stottle is. I mean, just a big kid. Comes out of another good high school. Great feet. I wrote down technician. And why I did that is because his hands and feet seem to always be in the proper spot when he moves. Hips underneath him. He's physical at the point of attack. I think he's one of the best linemen I've seen, and this is the typical kid that you're not going to see Lafayette get last year or the year before. This is a kid that's a scholarship tackle or offensive guard maybe, but the way he just moves, he pulls, he can pass pro. He's done everything on film here, I think, that Lafayette's looked for. And again, it's just a kid that really probably wouldn't have been here a year or two ago. Connor Staudill, one of the best linemen I've seen here at Lafayette.
And if you bring 6'5", 285 to campus, you're pretty much already as big as the guys you're going to compete against. And Connor Staudill comes in with some big expectations. Tim Vangelis is a wide receiver, 6'2", Colts Neck, New Jersey. And he was sought after by a lot of the Patriot League schools, decided to come to Lafayette. He was All-State Honorable Mention selection, All-Shore Conference first team, and 106 catches for 1,955 yards and 24 TDs. I'm
not sure if I can get through all my notes on this kid right now. I mean, vertical jump, 35 inches, nice hands, body control. When I watched him, what I see is a kid that is a pure wide receiver, just a pure wide receiver. And when I talked to Mickey Fine a little bit, he told me that this kid has attended some 7-on-7 camps where he's abused some of the better defensive backs in the state of New Jersey. And we know the number 3 DB was in the state of New Jersey in the entire country. But watch him here. Watch the one cut. Up the field, one cut right, one cut right. I mean, I've watched this kid on film. He's terrific. I just love the way he moves in space. He's a slot receiver. He can play maybe the X receiver. And I think you might see him, get on the field, do some other things, maybe some punt return. That's what you look at of these kids. But Tim Vangelis, an excellent get for Lafayette, just a pure wide receiver.
And again, you see the wide receivers coming in at 6'3", 6'2", going against cornerbacks that usually, and safeties that usually aren't quite that tall. We've seen the success of Mark Ross, similar situation.
Absolutely. You're learning football, Gary.
Well, I do
you get the big guys on the small guys and you win, and we've seen that for now 2 years with Mark Ross. So you're learning. I love it.
I was a small guy that was abused by the big guys. That takes care of the offensive players. We did bring in one special teams player. And it's kind of nice to come to campus and you're the only guy at the moment on campus in that position, and that's Ryan Forrester out of Arlington, Virginia. He is coming on as a punter at 5'11", 170 pounds. He's got a major in economics. He was a quarterback, a defensive back. He also kicked some field goals.
Yes.
He's also a punter. I watched him punt on film. Yeah. He booms the football.
Yeah, and that's what you look for, how that ball comes off. Is he a 2-step punter? Is he a 3-step punter? This is a 52-yard field goal. Look at that, 42-yard plus the 10, 52-yard field goal. He's not the only kicker on his team.
He's not the starting kicker.
He's not the starting kicker. So but you look at him here punting, and you can see the type of fields he's playing on. He's playing big-time football down there. This is at Navy Stadium. He's obviously out of Gonzaga. So the kid's punted against good talent. He's got a good foot. Lafayette knows with having Ethan Swerdlow, when you can punt the football, pin people inside the 10 and 15-yard line, makes a huge difference for your defense. I think this kid can really do some things, and he's going to be asked to do it as early as August.
There were times this past year where the offensive unit was totally all underclassmen. So it's an area where you hope these kids will have an opportunity to grow into their positions. The offensive unit as a whole coming in and starting next season looks pretty solid.
Yeah, and with everybody coming back, obviously, and then you have the quarterback, Zach Swisig, who's going to be just a pleasure to work with for Mickey Fine. Those two nice fullbacks coming back, a good stable of running backs up front, the offensive line gelling for another season, good tight end, wide receivers. I mean, it is a situation where Lafayette's got to be so excited, and it's been a while, really, about maybe 2 or 3 years since they felt this good about their offense and what they have returning. It's going to be a great spring practice for them.
And with scholarships this season and getting some really good kids, as you notice, we'll talk defense at the next hour, but with scholarships this season and such an exciting freshman and sophomore class from the last couple of years, things look very, very good. And I will segue that into, why don't you get a season ticket? Here, just go to goleopards.com. We have special season tickets going on right now for $60, 5 home games, plus the Lafayette at Lehigh game, the 149th edition. $60, you get yourself a season ticket special. It is a special only on signing day central. So get there, place that order. You can stop up in the booth and say hello to Mike and myself any game, anytime you want. We enjoy talking to the fans. We're at the Berger Varsity Football House. We're only going to go away for a little bit. We'll be back once again at 2 o'clock, and Mike will take us through the defensive recruits. Later on in the day, both the offensive, defensive coordinators. We're going to talk to the director of admissions. We're going to talk to head coach Frank Devaney. All of that coming up on Signing Day Central, presented by Coke Zero.